This is the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, hosted by David Charlton, and you're listening to this podcast to help you build your own mental toughness, or so that you can support other people or your clients better. Either way, you will learn more about developing this plastic personality trait that all but guarantees that you will perform better and lead a more prosperous life. Welcome back to the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with your host, David Charlton. So today's episode promises to be another good one, where we dig into important elements that link to commitment. So seeing things through to the end without being too derailed, which is an essential ingredient of mental toughness. I go on to chat with a lady who has an excellent podcast called Focus on Why, where we discuss her why. We talk about living a purposeful life, not simply drifting. We talk about overcoming challenging times, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, how you go about finding your why, and a host of other things. So today I was honoured to chat with Amy Rowlinson. Enjoy listening to this insightful episode. So Amy, you've got this fantastic podcast called Focus on Why, and I'm very curious, what sparked your interest in that particular topic?
Well, as with all things, there's a bit of a story behind it. And what actually happened, David, was I was already a podcaster. I'd been podcasting for about a year at that time. And I had a property podcast with my business partner at the time, Dan Hulbert. And when lockdown came, 23rd of March, 2020, we had a conversation, and it was not the conversation I was expecting. I thought we were going to take our business online, but Dan wanted to go in different directions. And I was really upset. I was upset because we had a great relationship. We still do. We get on really well. And the business I really enjoyed, but it wasn't his thing. And there's nothing worse than forcing yourself to do something that's just not your thing. And when I actually drilled down to think about what it was that I loved about what we were doing and what we were working with and working towards, I realized actually it was pretty much personal development and podcasting that I absolutely loved as part of my work. And so with that sort of revelation, in essence, it meant that I then realized that podcasting was the medium that I love using to communicate with an audience. And so within a week of that call, I had woken up with an idea called Focus on Why, all about why people do what they do, all about understanding what it is that drives people to pursue their interests and really live with purpose. And so I guess at the start, it was quite of a cathartic process for me, because I was looking for a new venture. I was created a new beginning for myself. And it just made sense. I thought, well, I can take myself on this journey whilst also exploring what other people are doing.
Fantastic. I'm going to take you back. You mentioned the words live with purpose there. So I'm guessing you're not someone who literally just finds their way. You're looking to take some sort of control over things.
Yeah, control is an interesting word as well. I like to have a degree of spontaneity, but there is pretty much always a plan that's keeping me on course. And what happened was back in 2016, I realized that both my husband and I had been, I would say, sleepwalking. It wasn't as drastic as that, but we were definitely going through the motions of what we expected from ourselves, what society expected from us in some respects. And my husband was working in the city and was struggling with his mental and physical health. He was working really hard and had been for, at that point, a couple of decades at least. And I had gone back to work. I'd been working in the city as well for a couple of years. And I realized that I was juggling a lot. He was struggling a lot. And between the two of us, we hadn't really realized that we had got ourselves in this state. And it was only when I sort of took a step back and realized, okay, we need to change things around. This is not working. There needs to be a new solution. And that solution was for me to work towards getting him out of the city. And that meant creating an alternative income that would replace his income. So I set about building a property portfolio that would take me 3 years. That was the plan. So I had a very clear purpose in that respect, but it was a goal that I was looking to achieve there. And so 3 years later, that happened. He retired. He stepped away from his work and he took over essentially the running of the business, of the property portfolio, albeit that it's all managed out with different agents. And that allowed me to really pursue what I loved. And at the time, it was helping other people to build their portfolios. It was podcasting. It was training in the property company that we ran together with Dan. And so that was great. And then again, I guess I realized I was all this time over those 5-6 years up to now, I have been developing my own personal self. So huge amount of reading. And we're looking at sort of 250, 300 books in personal development and business space. And I just became so much more aware of what was out there, what else I could do, what was there that I'd been missing. And of course, that journey continues. That's going to be a lifelong journey, but it certainly woke me up from that sleepwalking state that I was in.
So it sounds like a challenging time, a difficult time sparked you to really focus on your why in a sense and ask yourself some difficult questions. From your interviews with your many guests, does that follow a theme at all?
There's certainly those moments which have either been led from a trauma or they've been as a catalyst that has shaken people to the core and made them realize that what they've been doing was not what they want to be doing. And that has definitely been a trend for a lot of people, not for everyone. There have been others who have worked out their purpose through different routes, but there is definitely a trend for the more drastic scenarios. And I wouldn't say mine was a drastic scenario, but if I'd left it, if we had left it as a family, it could have been a very different scenario. So yes, absolutely. Purpose does come from that sort of traumatic experience sometimes.
Would you agree that often people can get, I suppose, where they get stuck down a rabbit hole where they're focusing on extrinsic rewards, be it numbers in a business sense, or I delve into sport quite a lot, like wins and prizes in that respect in a sporting sense?
Yeah, you can definitely have these goals and you're pursuing them. And sometimes you forget what else is going on because of that sole pursuit. And sometimes it requires you to forget what else is going on because you have to put all of your energy into achieving that. Particularly if you're in sports, it's very hard to not have you have to have that singular focus. It's very hard for you to be distracted and still be able to achieve what you want to achieve. I mean, we've got the Olympics going on right now and you're seeing these people who've spent the last 4, 6, 10 years looking to get where they are. And actually, it's quite interesting with the sporting analogy. A lot of people who realize that their purpose is going to shift at some point. They're going to change as their sporting career comes to a certain point, but they're almost unable to transition until they get to the end of that era. And then they have that sort of drop off a cliff moment where they just don't know what else to do because they've had all of this drive and energy going towards one thing.
Yeah, you see that a lot, don't you, when you with these professional athletes, where, as you say, they're just so, I suppose, goal-orientated. A lot of them don't even celebrate their successes because they're just so quick to move on to the next thing and the next thing. And then, as you say, when it all ends, often, mental health challenges come along from there. So in terms of like the importance of knowing your why, I'm guessing from what we're talking about, in your words, it would be very important.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big fan of understanding how purpose is part of who you are. I mean, we are humans that are built for purpose and we're driven by our purpose. And I often say to people, don't be scared by the word purpose because it can be this all encompassing thing that people sort of say, oh, I don't know what my purpose is. But I help people to understand that it's just something that they want to focus on more in life than anything else. And it's linked to what you want to achieve. It's linked to who you want to help. It's linked to who you are. And it's what gets you out of bed in the morning. It's what excites you. It's that those moments that really make you tick, where you are in a state of flow or focus that you absolutely love being where you are.
So in some ways, what you're talking about is that's the key behaviours that people are going to go on to experience on a day-to-day level. When you mentioned there about flow state and I suppose having a smile on their face, walking around with positive body language and those sort of factors, those are the sort of things that you would have conversations with people.
Yeah, it's linked to fulfillment. And when you feel fulfilled, it's likely because you are serving your values and your purpose. And that could be a contribution that you're making. And it doesn't matter how small or big that is. It's a contribution that you're making to others and society around you, your environment. And that, as I say, could be on a local scale. It could be on a national scale. It could be on a global scale. But knowing that you have that sense of belonging, knowing that you have got that sense of connection with others is essentially what we're all about. It's what being a human is all about.
So if I was a person who didn't know my why, where could I actually start and find that and delve into it?
I often describe the easiest way is to look at the ikigai concept. And that's where you look at what the world needs, what you're good at, what you love doing and what you can get paid for. And there will be an overlap within those 4 areas of your passion, your profession, your vocation and your mission. And it's just a really simple way to focus on those elements, and it will help you towards looking at what you might want to be doing. Again, that is focusing very much on the what. So then you come step backwards and you look at why you want to do those. What does it give you? What does it allow you to do? And who does it allow you to be? And so it's very much a case of folding in those elements to give your life more meaning and to give your life an opportunity to really live in accordance with your values. And I spoke about values earlier, and a lot of people don't know what their values are. They don't know how to align their work with their values. And the interesting thing is that people don't go to work. They go there to meet their needs and their values. So when they then align their work with their values, they become valued for their work and they value the work that they do. So for me, I am living in accordance with my values. I understand every day what it is I want to do, what it is I don't want to do, and I am honouring those. And it makes such a difference. And I hadn't been before, and often there was a mismatch, and I couldn't really pin it down. I couldn't understand what it was that wasn't quite working for me. And then I realised it was because I wasn't living in accordance with those values.
Do you think it's easier to live your values when you're a business owner as opposed to someone who's maybe working in a team or a corporation?
I think you can do both. I think that when you understand what it is that makes you tick, what is it that is driving you, you can then find work that actually aligns with that. You can look for companies who are aligned with your own values. You can look for roles within those companies that are more aligned with your values. And companies are now really aware of how important it is to have that intrinsic motivation, and that it's really hard to externally motivate people on a long-term basis. So when they come and they are looking for a role, to understand that that person is going to be motivated with the values that they're looking for, that's where you get your match. And if it's only 80%, then you're going to have a day a week that you're going to have to motivate that person to work. So it really does need to be a case of getting it right. I used to work in recruitment. And it was temporary recruitment, and I used to love it. And I got it right early on. I knew what people wanted. I understood what they were looking for. And that was from the client side and also from the candidate side. And this was temps who I was placing. So people would have to go into work on a day role, maybe, or a week role, and they had to hit the ground running. And I instinctively recognized the skill sets and the way that people would culturally fit together in an environment. And that was a long time ago. We're talking when I was in my early 20s that I did that. And also I used to interview thousands of people over that period that I was working there. So I think now, recognizing in my podcasting, again, I just understand and I can see it. I can see what it is sometimes they're looking for. And the same in the coaching, when people come to me, I can recognize the uniqueness that they have.
And I suppose just thinking about recruitment there, Would you advise someone who's going for an interview perhaps to ask the company about their values and then try and dig in and understand whether they actually live their values as well as a company?
Absolutely. Companies are now becoming more purpose-driven. They're becoming people-focused. They're becoming values-based. And if a company isn't, it's likely that they're going to be a long-term progressive company that's going to survive. I was reading a report recently from Deloitte, and they were saying that the purpose-driven companies are focused on two things. One is the progression, the longevity of that company, and the other is authenticity, to really be authentic to who they are and what they're trying to achieve. Now, of course, there's the bottom line of making profits. That's part of it. But the companies that have got that infinite game mindset, and it's something that Simon Sinek talks about as the infinite game, those who are looking to outlast the current lifetime of those who are working with them because they've got this long-term vision. That's the purpose at work. So absolutely, if you're going in looking for a role, is to start talking about values and understanding yours, because you will be more aligned and you will definitely find more fulfillment in your work. So you don't have to be a business owner, as you said before, for you to align yourself perfectly with your own work.
Yeah, I suppose the tricky thing is, isn't it, for some people when they do go into businesses and into different roles, that companies may say these are the values on paper, and then when it actually gets down to it, it's a very different story. Yeah, but yeah. That's the risk you take.
It is, and for those people who are not sort of clocking in and clocking out, yes, that may be the case that you have to do that for a certain period of time. There are certainly roles in my life where that's happened. So you find your fulfillment and you pursue your purpose in other areas. It doesn't have to be during the work environment all day, albeit that you are there for a long time of your life. So it is worthwhile trying to get it right. So there are other things you can do. Some people find their purpose and their pursuit in their hobbies and their volunteering areas. Again, it comes back down to that fulfillment piece.
And from your podcast, and what would you say are the biggest things that you've learned through your journey?
Oh, there's been so many. What I've learned from being a podcaster is quite separate almost to what I have learned as being an individual as well. So I believe that all these people who come on the show, they're my pioneers, well, not my pioneers of purpose, but they are pioneers of purpose, and they are championing what is possible. And so by putting that podcast into the space, by recording these episodes with people, and you're going to be one of the guests soon, David, so I'm really excited to have you on the show and talk about what it is that you're looking to achieve. But I believe it's my responsibility and it's my mission to gift this living legacy of inspiration and insight and knowledge that people are sharing to create these positive ripple effects. And I recorded back in my episode 100. I'm now hitting just hit 250 episodes now. And when I recorded my 100th episode, I asked people to come onto the show and just share what they had taken away from that podcast, from listening to a podcast, what it is that they get out of it, what it is that they receive. And there are so many different elements. One particular message that really stands out was that I was the water, or the podcast was the water to the seed that they'd planted a long time ago. And now they were able to watch it grow. For me personally, I've had clarity of message. I've got confidence in being a podcaster. I've become a better communicator. I've explored and enjoyed countless opportunities. I'm now helping people to create their own purpose-driven podcasts, which is just an absolute joy to be able to combine my purpose coaching with purpose podcast mentoring. That's like the perfect combo when people come to me and say, help me with my podcast and this is what my mission is. Wow, that's fantastic. So if I hadn't have done it, I don't know what else I would be doing, because this just seems to be where I should be in life.
I would imagine that is your why currently, if you like. That's likely to shift in a couple of years' time and shift again as time goes by.
Yeah, I mean, why is as a mindset? It's a choice of who you are. And again, where I am right now is where I'm meant to be. And it's a case of that self-awareness and having that choice. I didn't know 2 years ago. Well, nobody knew 2 years ago that we were about to enter into a pandemic. And so, yes, absolutely, that we live in a change. Change is probably the only constant in life. And so with that, I will evolve and my why will evolve with it. But what will stay and remain the same are, as I said earlier, my values. They've been with me since I can remember. But just recognizing them and honoring them is what shifts.
I'm going to take you back to that one where you talk about like recognizing and honoring them. So really, I suppose that's going to take some personal reflection from people, isn't it? To firstly, obviously understand what their values are, but then they need to constantly look at them and consider, am I actually behaving in a way I want to? Am I doing the things that align with these values? I'll let you explain a little bit more on that one to the listeners.
What specifically did you want me to explain, David?
I suppose how it is that people can go on to live their values over a period of time, and how they should go about taking a step back and reflecting.
Yeah, I mean, the values are all unique for each person. And so it's very different to sort of say, this is what you should do, or this is what could be done. All I know is that the values that I have are my internal compass. They are what guides me. They are my values that keep me on track. And again, if you're working in a company, collectively, it's what you can focus on together to guide, to use as a company guide as well. So for me, connecting the why I do what I do with those values, that can work on a personal and professional level. So my 5 values, and it might help if I explain what they are to see them in action. They are achievement, brilliance, connectedness, diversity, and effervescence. And so with those, I have achievement is my striving for excellence and seeking those positive, transformative opportunities. So coaching and podcasting sit really well with that. I start each day on 0, and every day I have to achieve something to feel like I've been successful in that day. And it can be a small thing, but I do start at 0 every day, and every day is a new opportunity for me to fulfill it. And then the brilliance for me is by combining my curiosity, with my learning, and with hope as well. And I recognize the strengths and the talents in other people, and I just want to showcase what they have to offer. The connectedness is that I absolutely love building this huge jigsaw of life, and every day I put another piece in, and jigsaws are addictive. So this is how I keep going and connect people. But also in the podcast space, I'm meeting so many more people. I am matching again. It comes back to that recruitment element of me that, once a recruitment consultant, always one, I think. And I'm always matching people and their skill sets and in making introductions. And one of those recently was I introduced a speaker into an environment where he went to speak at a closed mastermind group, and he absolutely blew them away with his work that he does and how it can then affect all of those businesses. And I didn't get anything out of that other than the sheer joy that I've introduced 2 people who are then going to create huge ripple effects across many industries. So that's fantastic. I don't like things being the same. I actually enjoy variety. I enjoy change. And so diversity is a big thing for me. So although I believe that we are all connected, we're also really different. And I curate these stories. I remember being told at age 16 that I was going to be a librarian as my future career. And I remember scoffing at that, thinking, no, thank you. I've got bigger plans. I am a modern day librarian. I am keeping all of these stories safe in this asset of the podcast. So that's what's happened. I have become that librarian that I was predicted to be. I love stories, and I love noticing what it is that people have to offer and then showcasing it. So and the effervescence, that's just this natural energy that I bring to the table, to every conversation and to everything I do. There is a huge amount of energy and joy that I focus on.
Yeah, and that energy is definitely going to be helped by living your purpose and your values out day in, day out. So in terms of the conversation that we've had, could you give the listeners 3 key takeaways?
So I guess the thing is to understand what it is that you're shining the light on. I'm shining the light on people's purpose. I have that clarity with that. And I understand how Ikigai has helped me to become really clear on the value that I offer and the value I offer through my podcasting and through my coaching. And I guess it comes down to the core thing, understanding why you're doing what you're doing and understanding that what you do each day matters and that what you do today is going to shape your future. And what you do with others is going to shape the future for other people. So if you want to find fulfillment and purpose in life, it all comes down to that one sole thing, which is focus on why.
It's a nice way to sum that up. Well, a big thank you for your time. Do you want to just tell the listeners whereabouts they can find you on social media and what have you?
Absolutely. So I'm on all the social media channels, so that being Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I'm not on TikTok. I'm just a voyeur there. I enjoy watching. Haven't braced myself for that world yet. And if you go to amyrowlinson.com, you can find everything you need there.
Excellent. I'll put all those details in the show notes and look forward to sharing the episode soon. Big thank you for your time, Amy.
Thank you, David.
Well, that was a fun episode to create. And what you don't hear was my youngest son invading the episode and creating a lot of noise. Thankfully, that was edited out. As in life, in podcasting, there are things that can throw you off at times, without a doubt. And he nearly did for me. Anyway, and again, this is a reason for creating a podcast episode of this type. In life, you can be thrown off track very easily. My belief is that episodes like this are really essential for anyone in any walk of life to appreciate. And I sincerely hope that Amy's advice helps you get a feel for the importance of your why and how to go about unpicking it. In sport, motivation seems to be a key phrase which people like to use, especially coaches and especially pundits in the media. Now, motivation, it's defined as a reason or reasons for acting or behaving in a particular way. Motivation is simply a desire for something. And many athletes are motivated to perform better. However, what separates people is that only a small percentage are actually committed to doing the things that are necessary to fulfill their ambitions and perform at their best consistently. So my hope from this episode is that Amy's wise words will have a positive impact on you, on both your motivation and your commitment levels. Now, you may also be interested in downloading the Focused Athlete Checklist. There's a link in the show notes. This goes on to highlight some further ideas and some resources that you can use should it be a challenge for you or for people that you know or your athletes. So go on, give it a go, look to download it, and until next time. If you enjoyed this episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with David Charlton, do check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, and my online sports psychology resources. The Sport-Excellence website has essential resources for anyone looking to build their own mental toughness or the mental toughness of their athletes or teams, or if you want to achieve peak performance more often or optimal functioning. The Sport Excellence website has everything you need to keep moving forward and thrive. So go on, head over to sport-excellence.co.uk to find out more.